Shalom. I want to first start off by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rakah Kodash, and Shani Kabad and Gadawala Rukwab, the Kwanyam Nawa, Washalayakim Nawa, which is double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and Shalom, Babarakim, Labakayim, Shayasharala, and that's peace and blessings to the elect of Israel, and as always, to the confusion of faces, meaning those who look like the other nations, but whose spirits resonate with the truth, and that believe and have faith in Yahweh, the Heavenly Father, and Yahweh Shai, the only begotten Son. To all of you brothers, no matter how you look, no matter what so-called color of skin you are, if you believe and have the faith, then I want to say peace and blessings to you all. So as you can see, what I want to do through the Spirit is go through the whole book of Daniel, the 8th chapter. And I was reading Daniel, the 8th chapter last week, and so I figured why not just run through it and put the understanding out there for the elect. And with that being said, I pray that this is edifying. Alright, so this is Daniel chapter 8 verse 1. It says, "In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw, that I was at Shushan in the palace which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai." Verse 3, "Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. Now these 2 horns are talking about the Media Empire and the Persian Empire, the Medes and the Persian. Okay, the Medio-Persian Empire. Once again, verse 3, "Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, the Mede Empire and the Persian Empire. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other." That's talking about the Persian Empire, and the higher came up last, and that's how we know, because the Persian Empire came up after the Medes. Verse 4, "I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward," so their empire started to expand, "so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole ground, of the whole earth." That he-goat is specifically referring to the Grecian Empire. I'm going to read it again. "And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat," the Grecian Empire, the Greeks, "an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes." So the goat, the Greek Empire, had a notable horn between his eyes. That notable horn is talking about Alexander the Greek, or as we like to call him, Alexander the Greek, because that's exactly what he was when you read more about him. Alright, he was an evil, wicked man, and through him, evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay? Now verse 6, it says, "And he came to the ram." That's how we know through the Spirit that that notable horn is a man, because verse 6 says, "And he came to the ram that had 2 horns." So Alexander the Greek came to the Medo-Persian Empire, which I had seen standing before the river, verse 6, "and ran unto him in the fury of his power." So he went to go take them down. "And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him." So he was moved with hatred or bitterness. Let's look up that word choler really quickly. So I'm going to turn this back on, turn that off, so we can get some internet connection. What I want to do is look up that word choler. "And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler." For choler we have H4843, and it's marar. Okay, let's click it really quickly. You see we have marar, and it means, to be bitter, show bitterness. When you come down here, it says to be enraged. So he was moved with hatred or bitterness. He was enraged toward the Medo-Persian Empire. That's the kind of devil that Alexander the Greek was. Okay, let's put this back on really quickly. There we go. Verse 7 again. I do that because I don't want anybody interrupting through the Spirit. And I saw, verse 7, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler or maror, hatred or bitterness against him, and smote the ram and brake his two horns. So Alexander the Greek took down the Medo-Persian Empire, and this lines up with secular history. You can read about this in any history book. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. So the Greek or the Grecian Empire waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. You see, once again, referring to that great horn as a he. So when it says he was broken, that's talking about really the death of Alexander the Greek. It says, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. So after Alexander the Greek died, alright, there's 4 kingdoms, or 4 people, 4 kings, if you will, that arose after him. Those 4 are Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and a lot of people like to say Antigonus, but it's not really Antigonus or Antigonus. What happened was he rose to power very shortly, and he was actually taken out of power, and he was replaced by Cassander. So those 4, more specifically, more accurately speaking, those 4 notable ones are referring to Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander. Now verse 9, it says, and out of one of them, so out of one of 4 the notable ones, came forth a little horn. Now that little horn is referring to Antiochus, and he came forth out of Seleucus. And out of one of them came forth a little horn. So that was Antiochus, the little horn, that came forth out of Seleucus, out of his kingdom or rulership. Continuing on, it says, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. Alright, now verse, right toward the pleasant land, verse 10. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. That host of heaven is talking about the nation of Israel. And it waxed great even into the host of heaven, or Israel, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. And that's exactly what he did to us. Verse 11. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. Okay, the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Verse 12. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and he cast down the truth to the ground. What does it mean, it cast down the truth to the ground? That's referring to the law. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So what does this mean? It's referring to basically when Antiochus came into power, he destroyed our temple, he destroyed our place of sacrifice, our sanctuary. He made us eat, he forced us to eat abominable foods. He had us worshiping his gods, and he had us basically adhering to the laws and commandments of their wicked and abominable Grecian Empire. As a matter of fact, when you read in the book of the Maccabees, which is a part of the Bible, when you read in the book of the Maccabees, it was actually unlawful at all to even call yourself a Jew. Okay? So that's what that's referring to. Now verse 13, it says, that's what verse 12, or really 11 and 12 is referring to. Now verse 13, and once again you can read about that in the book of the Maccabees, which is a part of the Bible. Verse 13, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint. That saint is referring to an angel. When it says, then I heard one saint speaking, alright, continuing on, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So how long is Antiochus going to be able to just continue his wicked rulership and to destroy the temple and our place of sacrifice, right? And our nation. Verse 14, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So what this is referring to is the time in which Antiochus destroyed the temple, which is about 6 to 7 years later that the temple was recovered, or I'm going to say rebuilt. So once again, this is referring to the time between, which is about 6 to 7 years, of when first Antiochus destroyed the temple unto the time in which it was rebuilt back again. And you can read about that in the book of 1 Maccabees, the 4th chapter, around verses 54 through 59. And this is also the time in which the high holy day Hanukkah was established. Alright, this is around the time, or this is the reason why Hanukkah was or is established. Once again, you can read that in the book of Maccabees, which is a part of the Bible. Now, verse 15. And it came to pass when I, even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid, and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. And he said, Behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. Now what does it mean, what shall be in the last end of the indignation? Is this referring to the end of the world, the end of Babylon the Great, and when the Lord comes back and destroys America, Babylon the Great, with missiles? Absolutely not. How can we be jumping all the way fast forwarding to America, the end of the world, when we're still talking about the Grecian Empire? Who arose after the Grecian Empire? The Romans. This vision isn't even getting into the Roman Empire. You see? So this, when it says, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, it's not referring to the end of the world. It's referring to when Antiochus destroyed the temple, and when that's going to be done and over and gone away with. The indignation is when he destroyed the temple, okay, and destroyed us as a nation. Now verse 20, and now this is the vision being broken down through the Spirit. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. Once again, we read that in verse 3. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king, Alexander the Greek. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, remember Alexander the Greek was broken, or he died, and then 4 stood up after him. It says, continuing on, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. Once again, those 4 kingdoms or nations were Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander. Alright, not Antigonus, it was Cassander. Now verse 23. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance. Remember who came out of, you had the 4 notable ones in verse 8, and verse 9 says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn. That little horn is Antiochus, who came out of Seleucus. So verse 23, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. That's talking about Antiochus, that little horn that came out of Seleucus. Verse 24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Because when you read secular history, what made Antiochus so great and powerful is because he had something called mercenary nations. So that's what it means by, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Continuing on, and he shall destroy wonderfully. Man. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And we don't have to say who the holy people are. We know who the holy people are. All right, verse 25, and I'm just going to finish it, and I'm going to read out and finish the chapter through the Spirit. It says, and through his policy, talking about Antiochus, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. You see? And we have to say the water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem HaKakodash, that his Holy Spirit, the Comforter, has come down, and starting with our elders and apostles of Great Millstone on down, we understand these prophecies. So with that being said, I pray that this was edifying to the elect. Once again, I was reading over it, and I figured why not just break it down and through the Spirit bring to light this understanding. So once again, I pray that this was edifying, and I want to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem HaKakodash, and double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who taught us his truth and who rule well over all true Israel in these times. And peace and blessings to the elect, those that are pushing his word in truth and in sincerity. Shalom.